A very good day, Dr. Khalid. I am Aaron Locious from Group 8, taking the course of EMH341 Thermodynamics. And today I'll be presenting you about the other types of wind turbines, specifically diffuser or mounted wind turbine. So as you can see, my group members are Gautam, Muhammad Shami, Ibrahim Muhammad Yassin, and also Ali Nasir Tair Aladi. So now I'm presenting about the background of diffuser augmented wind turbine. The diffuser augmented wind turbine is actually proposed in the early 1950s by the Japanese as well as British. This is the diffuser augmented wind turbine. The purpose of it is to increase the power output by connecting a diffuser to the blade turbine. So since there's a diffuser there, it allows to capture the wind in the rotor lah. Hence the higher power output is generated according to the given diameter. According to the experiment conducted by M. Saruki, the inner area ratio is equal to 1.9 exit and also the total length 1.21 meter. The performance of blade is expected to increase by 4%. Okay, so now I'm presenting about technology description of diffuser augmented wind turbine. So this wind turbine is basically works on a principle where the speed of wind increases when the output power increases. So it's directly proportional to the power output lah. So since it's based on fluid dynamics, the airflow that is outside, that is flowing through the flank diffuser, will create the flow through the flank diffuser and create a strong vortex. The same thing goes to the air that flows through the wind turbine blade. So this airflow that's inside and also outside will create a vortex which will generate a low pressure area. Hence, the velocity of air increases when it enters the wind blade turbine. And of course, there'll be a factors affect the performance of diffuser augmented wind turbines. So the first factor will be the shape and the design of diffuser. Of course, we always recommend a curvature diffuser to increase the velocity of wind, and just to make sure the formation of turbulence behind the wind turbine. And next will be the blade airfoil. Airfoil S1233 is always preferred, or rather preferred than NACA 006. This is because the mass flow rate increases and also it has 1.93 times higher than NACA 0006. So the last will be the wind condition. The wind speed affects the shape of diffuser, and also a turbine must always be installed in a windy area.
Good day, Dr. Khalid. This is Ibrahim Muhammad Yassin. I'm presenting the techno-economic pros and cons of the ducted wind turbine. Using this technology to make power reduces the use of fossil fuels, which means less pollution. So if you use wind power for 1 kilowatt hour, you save 696 grams of carbon dioxide. There are also other waste that come out of traditional power plants, affect the surrounding. And for the long run, this waste can be freely thrown away but cost other people in the form of lung diseases and damage from acid rain and global warming. Second, the use of wind energy to generate power also conserves a significant amount of water. Conventional power utilizers use millions of liters of water every day in the course of their operations. Finally, a ducted wind turbine avoids the transmission losses associated with the centralized energy generation by allowing power to be generated on site rather than in the transmission network. And for the cons of this technology, engineering cost models that are currently in use do not take these benefits both into consideration. And they also do not take into account the potential for illness risk reduction from wind energy. And if all of these considerations were taken into account, the cost of energy produced by a ducted wind turbine would be even lower than the cost of energy produced by a bare wind turbine. And according to a study by the University of Aberdeen in UK, the lack of state-of-the-art engineering techniques to protect ducted wind turbine in extreme wind conditions and the inability of ducted wind turbines to accurately follow wind direction changes are thought to have in a way contributed to the slow commercialization of ducted wind turbines.
Greetings, Dr. Khalid. My name is Gautam, and today I'll be presenting about the suitability of diffuser augmented wind turbine generation. These turbines could also be called as ducted wind turbines. So, before we even start to analyze the suitability of these turbines, we must study and analyze the features and characteristics of the wind flow in our country. You see, Malaysia is located 5 degrees on the north of the equator. What this means is that Our country is geographically placed in a place where wind flow is very ununiform. We so high winds does not reach our country a lot. We only have high wind speeds during the monsoon period, and even then it's only at certain places such as the east or the west coast. So are ducted wind turbines really suitable to be used in our countries? Well, the answer to that is a bit complicated. Yes and no. See, it all depends on the place and the time where these turbines are placed. And in general, wind turbines are very difficult to be commercially implemented in our country. See, even though ducted wind turbines do give twice the amount of output that normal wind turbines give, it still needs a relative amount of wind speed to operate. Hence, it is only suitable to be operated during the monsoon regions. It could also be applicable in hilly regions such as Sabah and Sarawak. And overall, I feel that having wind turbines in Malaysia is not really an effective method of making electrical energy. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Greetings, Doctor. My name is Muhammad Shamir bin Johar from Group 8, and my parts will cover the negative environmental impacts of ducted wind turbine. Although the environmental impacts of wind turbine isn't as bad as greenhouse effect caused by fossil fuel, it is still something that cannot be ignored. One of the impact of wind turbine is that it is a threat towards local wildlife and habitats. This is mainly focused towards avian creatures such as birds and bats. There's a research done by National Wind Coordinating Committee which found the evidence of birds and bats death caused by the collision with wind turbine and the change in temperature, in pressure in the air due to the spinning blades. Although this is the case, NWCC actually concluded that the impacts are relatively low, simply because the numbers of birds killed per year due to wind turbine is very negligible if compared to other causes such as buildings and hunters. The other environmental impact of wind turbine is that it causes noise pollution. There are two noises from wind turbine which can be classified as mechanical noise, which are from the moving parts of the turbine, and aerodynamic noise, which come from the flowing wind through the turbine. Noise pollution not only lower the value of nearby property, but it also affect the well-being of people living around the area.
Hello, Dr. Khalid. My name is Ali Nasser. I'll be presenting the summary of our group presentations about uh, other types of wind turbine, specifically about the diffuser augmented wind turbine, also known as ducted wind turbine. It was proposed first by the Japanese and English people around the middle of last centuries as a step towards using renewable energy sources. And there are some factors that affect the performance and the. As for the techno-economic pros and cons, we can summarize that by saying using a ducted wind turbine will help reduce the consumption of fossil fuels, as well as preserving a huge amount of water which will be wasted when using regular fossil fuel engines and generators. But unfortunately, this type of wind turbines will not be suitable to use in Malaysia, and that's because Malaysia has unstable wind behavior, which will affect the performance and the life of this type of wind turbines. And the downside of these of using ducted wind turbines is that they produce a noise pollutions which will affect the area around them, as well as they are a threat to the wildlife. And here are the references our group did the research on, such as the renewable and sustainable energy in 2011 and 2012, as well as the techno-economic analysis of ducted wind turbines and their slow acceptance on the market, Journal of Renewable Energy in 2014. And also some of the websites such as Pinnerpet and Windworks organization, as well as researchgate.net. Thank you for lending us your ears, Dr. Khalid.